Thinking man with the man himself, Mr. Robert Banfield, Cowboy Bob, if you really want to know. And today we have a very open discussion. Cowboy Bob, tell him
About
what's up.
what?
I don't know. What is
Oh,
today?
hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the return to the thinking man. Sorry, you caught me absent of thought.
Hmm.
Now what do you got?
Closed eyes, an incredibly exhausted body, and a world that's still spinning. What else is there to do? I mean, shit. Only thing left is
So now that you've discovered
cut.
that you're one of the Montauk boys, I suppose your world's going to be all screwed up.
Nah, I don't give a fuck. I'd rather sit out there with Captain Jack.
Well, question is, would Captain Jack rather be sitting with you? Or does Captain Jack care?
Captain Jack don't give a fuck.
Amber Heard will come crap in your bed, Captain Jack.
No, she wouldn't.
Yeah, she would. He
Mm.
said so. I even saw a picture of cat spikes on the bed so that she couldn't get on the bed.
Mm.
That's who Captain Jack is, right? Captain Jack Sparrow.
Well, you know something?
What
Um,
I find amazing is how little so many of those guys are. And the fact that the studios go to such great lengths to cast characters so as to make little guys look like they're big when in fact they're not. Even so much as to scale down the props and the backgrounds in order to make a 5'7" man look like he's 6'2", when in fact when you walk up to them they're short.
mm,
They're little short dudes.
the plane.
I always thought you looked bigger on TV. Oh, TV adds 20 pounds. Yeah, right. The illusion of the motion picture camera, the illusion of the human mind. So I'm anxious to hear your stories of being abducted by the aliens, having your brain fractured and turned into a robotic secondary citizen, pretending to be you.
The plane.
Yeah, you do that well.
Mm. Man, me tattoo. The plane.
So
The
did you?
plane.
So did you just function yourself into sickness, or did you go out and pick something up from some stranger on the street?
Mm. Stranger came by, said, I love you. The plane, and everybody got it.
Yeah, sounds like the whole house is sick.
The plane.
Well, I'm glad it's not transmittable over Zoom.
Actually, they said it was, but I haven't seen different.
I have filters up. I'm not worried about it.
Oh, you got filters?
I've got special filters up so that, you know.
Oh, you got shielding, huh?
It was funny, you see, I caught part of that previous show, and I'm really sad that Tracy's not here because I wonder seriously if she knows him or knew him, because they were in exactly the same field, except she was at the top of the tower, right? She was there at she was there at the onsets of it. She was, she set up, had her hands in setting up most of the original stuff that we think about in the whole world of the mainframe computer and AI and all that good stuff. She was there when they were putting those ideas to task you know, they had tested the theories, they'd done it on small scale, but they had never tried to really implement it. And she just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And her principal professor at the institute she attended was one of the key components to all that concept. He had been there at the original computer being built for the federal government. And so consequently, you know, he was teaching the next generation the engineering concepts of building these things. And Tracy was one of his students. And she went on to, you know, Babcock and Wilcox and various other, you know, Honeywell and Diebold and all those people were all there, right, in that particular part of the country. And it was their upper echelon of IT people that were putting everything together that she went to school with. Those, you know, and so as the years went on, you know, by the time AOL came out, you know, we were already up and on some kind of a cyber link, but it was, you know, what they would call now the dark web. It didn't really exist. It was more of an intranet. You had to be invited into it. You had to have the codes and everything to get in there and converse. And in those days, it was pure text on the screen. You know, it was dot matrix computing. You know, it wasn't any of the stuff that we see now. But listening to him talk and some of his background information, I was like going, I bet dollars to donuts they knew each other or knew of each other. You know,
So,
because even when we moved out here in '97, Tracy was still a go-to. So we'd get phone calls at all kinds of strange hours to the house, you know, and Tracy'd disappear into her little den, and you know, and I wouldn't see her for a couple hours at a time. And, you know, all I'd get was, oh, that was Mr. Smith, or that was Mr. Jones, or that was, you know, that kind of such thing. Very, you know, nothing I needed to know about, or in most cases would have understood, which was the principle. Trying to explain to me what was going on, you had to explain to me everything that came before it. That was, you know, that's why I am so inept at the computer. It was like they were saying there at the end, you know, I can't do it. I can't be on all these apps and logged into all these different social media I can't do it. I can't keep that big of a circle going actively in my head. You know, I'm focused, you know, and maybe that's a flaw of my generation, was that, you know, we were the last generation that literally was still focused on singular perspectives. You know, we could multitask in a sense that, you know, we could have several irons in the fire simultaneously. But, you know, when you were in a kitchen and you were putting out food and you got 300 tables out there and they expect that food within 15 minutes of the time that they sat down at the chair, you know, you don't have time to be focusing on too much of anything else. And now, you know, my grandsons who are you know, just turning into teenage years, 13, 14 years old, they're, you know, they've got a world of all these satellites and they can keep them all separate and they're engaged in all of them on a regular basis. And I don't get it. Wait, what was that song? Too much information. It's too much information for me.
I thought it was just my imagination.
No, no, no. I've actually got the video. It was when we played it quite a bit at on Dance Vision. It was popular. I just can't remember who the band was. Um, but that was the I think that was even the title. Too much information, and it was really, I could look it up. I could play it for you here. We'd have to do the share screen thing, but I've actually got the video. Because I've still got my, you know, I've got all the contents from my programs. I can't use them. YouTube has a nervous fit. Hey, that's in me. You don't have the rights to that music. That belongs to somebody at Warner Brothers or something, you know, because they just absolutely claim ownership to everything,
You mean the
you
one
know.
by
And
Duran Duran?
yeah, that sounds right. It was very psychotic. The video, very. I mean, it was, you know, it was the kind of video that would conceivably have crossed that line that somebody who had epilepsy could have like sued them for causing a seizure because of the way that it worked. You know, it was like boom, 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 boom. And not long after that, they started calming them down a little bit, you know, and those music videos were a little, you know, a little cleaner. But the message in the song was, you know, basically it was just too much information. I can't process all this stuff. Everybody's throwing crap at me from every direction, and I can't process all of this. And now we have a generation, 2 generations removed, who are, you know, like born with it. You know, they can, you know, on that mentally, they seem to be able to multitask at a level that I could not ever have handled. Still can't. You know, I have to go through the countdown on what bills I pay every month. Did I pay this? Did I pay that? When do I pay this? How do I pay that? You know, and that to me is complication. I can't hear her. She's talking underwater. Now I can't hear you. You're sitting there being autistic. That's it.
Too much information out there, man. Information overload, bro.
That's not the right file. My videos, MPEG-4s. Well, that would be entire episodes. Geez, I haven't looked for these in years. Come on. Music AVIs. There you go. That tells you how old they are. Music AVIs. Broadcast quality videos. Original. No, that's not it. Oh, well. I've got it someplace. I don't know where. I get it through I go to my editor and find it, but that would be a trip. You have to load my editor, and that takes forever too. No. How do I get out of here? Okay. No.
You think they just?
I haven't learned how to navigate. You know, I've got like all this stuff that is in files, and I know that there's a way that you can bring those and do them, and you know, I mean, you know, I could do, you know, the whole kind of dance vision deal without the dancers, you know, which was the key to that whole concept. Funny, I guess that's what's on my mind. That's where I'm at book wise. I just broke into television. There you go. I could read a chapter of the book. Well, you know, every chapter is a story into itself. That was kind of the whole idea. You know, every 5 or 6 pages, I tell a story, then I rolled in. Now it's all in a timeline. So it's the story of this moment, which then rolls into the next story, which is that moment, all of which ends up being, the end result. So here I am, right? The end of those stories. I'm still here and adding another chapter to the book in the process, if you think about it. Because I could talk candidly about this experience as a brand new venture in the enterprises and journeys of a wolf dancing.
Is it an experience?
Oh, sure, everything's an experience. That's the thing, there's all these people talking all this stuff, sci-fi, illusions, psycho illusions, who knows, okay? Everybody's truth is their truth, and whatever keeps them glued to it, that's their thing. But the tender, gentle reality of all of this is we existed before any of this crap was even a twinkle in an eye, let alone a wet dream on the sheets. And man as a species survived, meaning man without enterprise, man without commerce, man without governance was able to survive and procreate for the generations upon generations which fed us the little twerps that are running around the streets today. Okay? How many million generations? Nobody knows. And why does that matter anyway? See, why do the whole thing with the Anunnaki matter? What's the point? Doesn't matter. What may or may not have happened, how man might have ended up on this planet and ended up spending million generations to get where we are today is irrelevant. Doesn't change today. It doesn't change the screwed up situation you find yourself stuck in today. By the way, that was a little bit of self-editing. That was a little bit of self-censorship. A choice of words. It's not hard to do. You just let your brain flow. You keep your mouth engaged with your brain. Doesn't make anybody smarter. Doesn't make anybody seem more educated. Doesn't make the argument any more profound because you throw in a bunch of four-letter words. You can be an adult. You can grow up, quit acting like Beavis and Butthead, and start facing reality instead of virtual reality. Life ain't a damn cartoon. It's real simple. It's real. It's here. Prick me, I bleed. All we got to do is remember who we as individuals are. You're a self-contained running piece of equipment which is capable of some pretty phenomenal things, even if it all is just a dream that somebody else is having. You've still been pretty well equipped. Even as a cartoon character goes, you're pretty well equipped. Look at the magnificent and wonderful things that have been built and created out of the imagination of the human mind. But life's real, not imaginary. Real pain, real sickness, real death. Real life, real love, real hate. Real. But if you can't deal with that because they just didn't knit you together real tight, then you make up an illusion and you live in the illusion. I'd help you if I could. All I can do is advise. My advice is get back to remembering who you are. If all those people hadn't indoctrinated you from the time you were old enough to open your eyes and see the world around you, people were telling you that was pink and that was blue and that's an elephant and that's a bird. Hey, that's their frickin' opinion. Okay? But they made it yours. They put it into you. They said, no, 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 we don't eat cold cereal on Mondays. On Mondays, we eat hot cereal. And so you now eat hot cereal every Monday and you don't question the why of it. You just do it. Because like a computer, you were programmed. Like a computer, it was e-prompted into you. In the first 18 months of your life, you gain more of your natural behavior for the rest of your life than you can possibly imagine or realize. You watch the people around you and learn how to move your limbs. You emulate, you imitate. Every child does. Doesn't take a genius to figure it out. Sit and watch them. Sit and watch them watch you. They are absorbing at a rate of speed that we can't move a vehicle through space with yet. Faster than any AI, faster than the computer. See, man's not capable of making something superior to himself. Point. That's why man is not God. Point. So, since the computer is man's cheap imitation of creating the brain, trying to prove that he's the equal to the God that he prays to, he can only make it resemble him, but he can't make it better than him, because to be better than him would make that a creator and him the creation again. Therefore, there's an automatic governor in there. You know, just like what they call a governor on a school bus. No matter how hard you push the gas pedal, it will only go 50 miles an hour. Okay, it's governing. Can't do it. Won't do it. Okay, so your brain has governors on it. You can only go so far. There are those who would suggest that you can break those governors. There are those that suggest you can knock down the walls that keep you separate from the universe around you. There are those that would suggest that you can break through the veil and see into other realms and other dimensions. Cool. Your truth. I was abducted by aliens. Okay, your truth. I must be one powerful mammy mother. I must be. I must be such a beacon of hot something. Because in all the years, in all my efforts, they have made sure to never make contact with me. Now, I might say that it's because I'm dumb. They have no use for me. Too damn stupid and moronic, too stubborn and bullheaded to be bothered with. Or it could be absolutely the other way around. But either way, it's your truth. But I ask for physical, tangible evidence. I don't see it. But I do see people who have taken the time to look back into themselves, to reassess their own perception of themselves, who went on to live fairly happy, congenial lives. Because once they realized that they weren't somebody else's puppet, that they didn't need that other hand to feed them, that they were quite capable of doing this for themselves, they were capable of being creative, making decisions, being analytical. But see, if you're told all your life that you can't, that you must trust this source because you're not capable, and you believe that, you drink the Kool-Aid and you like it, que sera. Your truth. But I would challenge that perhaps you might think back and realize that in time and space, you had the opportunity to make your own decisions. I used to do readings. One of the things I would ask, and I put this to you, Odin, okay? Think about this now. You don't have to respond, just think about it. Form your own answer. When you were, say, 3, 4 years old, given the situation, I will make an analogy, but you have to change that to your own circumstance. So it might have been sitting out on the back stoop or leaning up against a garage in an alley, or it might have been sitting out under the tree in the backyard. You were all alone, and you were a little bit pissed off at mommy or daddy, or mommy and daddy, because they had told you you couldn't do something you wanted to do, and you stormed off with your little whatever you carried around for security, your teddy bear, your doll baby, whatever it was. And you sat down underneath that in that object all by yourself. And in that moment of time, you created a story about, when I grow up, I'm going to be. When I grow up, nobody's going to tell me. When I grow up, blah, 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 blah. And I challenge every one of the people who came to me and said, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to start over. And I would say to them, sit down, close your eyes, put on some old music from way back when that you remember fondly, quietly in the background, and sit and remember when you were sitting under that tree. What did you say? Because believe it or not, in about 95% of the cases, they did in fact envision being exactly what they would become many decades later in their life. They would achieve that. Even though along the way, there would be all kinds of other stuff dumped on top. Okay, many changes, many misdirections, they all came back to that thing. Whatever it was they talked about when they were sitting under that tree, all alone, feeling sorry for themselves, crying to their stuffed animal about the injustice of the world around them. It's an amazing exercise. Which leads me to the philosophy that we're all on a destiny track, like it or not. And for those who like to get into the metaphysical and sci-fi crap, I would present something that requires absolutely no evidence to prove. And that would be that if there is such a thing as a soul, then a soul is an element of energy that is cascaded from the sources of the universe, which naturally or unnaturally occur, but we'll go with naturally occur. So the energy is just naturally there. It is the source of all energy in the universe. And this one little twinkle leaves the pack, if you will, climbs out of the pond, finds its way, becomes you. You're born, you're on a journey to experience. Now, I just saw something on it. It was a meme on Facebook. I think it's meme is the right word. A poster that was posted. And it was something about the 7 wonders of the world. And the 7 wonders of the world are see, hear, smell, speak, taste, feel, emotion. And that's true if you take that philosophy. So this thing that was part of this greater collective broke away. But in that collective, there is no sight, sound, taste, smell, feel, touch, emotion. Everything is perfect. Nothing is ever wrong because it's a perfect continuity of communicable energy. It's a large ball of energy that feeds in and of itself. So you break away solely for the purpose of being able to experience sight, sound, smell, taste. Here you are. What are you going to do with the time in front of you? Are you going to use it to fulfill all of your desires for experience? Or are you going to stand in the shadow and watch everybody else go about doing it, but a little too timid to jump in the pool, as they say? All the other kids are there. All the other kids are already in the pool, but you're the one hanging over by the wall, still holding on to your towel, and you won't jump in. But after a while, you get a little curious, so you do kind of go stick your foot in the water. Okay. It's normal. It's who we are. The rest of this nonsense is a game. And you sat down at the table, either because you were directed there and you assumed, as in to make an ass out of you and me, assume that you have no other option, so you go where you're directed, or you saw the game, it intrigued you, and you willingly and voluntarily sat down. But then you lost your entire paycheck in the process. And now you want to blame somebody else. You don't want to blame you. But you forget there's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. There's no up or down. This is all a cognitive illusion of the human brain, what they call a human construct. Animals don't know about up and down, left and right. They don't care. They live their lives out in the forest doing what they naturally do because that's what their instincts drive them to. We have got to convolute everything so we can put labels on it. Don't quite understand that. Think it has something to do with speech. Dr. D could probably answer that more scientifically. But, we do have this need to put labels on everything. And then, of course, once we have labels, we have to have categorizations.
We have to have labels. You know why? It's the only way that allows us to feel authoritative. It gives.
I can name that, therefore I am smarter than you who doesn't know its name.
Right.
Okay. But why do we have to have a name? Is that speech?
Well,
we have to put a name on it so we can speak what it is?
Well, put it this way. For our culture and society and the way the input variables are for our minds, which is basically based on bias regardless, you have to label something in order to feel superior, number one. You have to label something in order for others to have a cognitive ability to understand it, number two.
Can't be shared without a title.
Right. And the last part is you have to give something a pronoun. He, she, it, her, him, they.
Which is the sense of you either declare it sentient or non-sentient, right?
Basically, but more so.
Because if it's an it, so to speak, then it's an object. Okay. Non-sentient, right? Or it's a he or a she or a they. That would be a sentient recognition.
But an sentient recognition being it or they is the same thing. Truly. I mean, a dog could be a he, and it is an it.
But don't we give them credit for sentience? They're not inanimate objects.
Well, it could be. I know people.
Yeah, if you shoot him and stuff him and mount him on a frame, he'll be an inanimate object forever. Yeah. But I mean, we do. I mean, we don't give them the same level of sentience that we would give ourselves.
No, because they don't.
Because we can't define if they have self-awareness. Although they appears to me that they hit most of the criteria. They don't like to be hurt. They fuss when they're hungry. Okay. And, they have that whole reproduction thing going on, and that, man, they live in their own damn world when they're doing that, and that would sense to me that they, that they do have some sense of self, maybe not the elevated sense that we have, but some sense. And most mammals do.
Well, most mammals have to label because, like I said, they have to feel superior.
Star Trek played with that quite a bit.
except for the
towards
board.
the latter half, and in the movies, they played with the forces out in the universe that were conductive of, they were self-sufficient, self-existing, self-progenerating, but not sentient. They went through the whole thing with Data. Was Data sentient, or was Data just a machine?
Well, the only way Data became sentient was when he started to have emotions.
Right.
Really? I mean, does most emotions make you a sentient being?
Well, then we would question whether Dr. Cooper on Big Bang Theory was ever, Sheldon was ever sentient.
Mm-hmm.
Because he seemed to be pure calculus,
Right.
and that's the problem. And see, and that's the relevance of the concept of an AI. And as Tracy would have put it fundamentally, until you can figure out a way to reproduce the soul, okay, which legends suggest is that our emotion, right? It's our ego, our emotion, our logic is our soul. Okay, that's what we have that dogs and horses don't have, right?
Well, hold
Okay,
on.
so
Hold on. You can't say that. Because if you hit a dog, does it whimper? Does it
it's
snap back?
hurt,
That's an
but that's not
emotion.
that's not the same as four-dimensional emotion.
Okay. And if you die in front of the dog, or other people
The
get the
dog
biggest.
does appear to grieve.
Right. So is that ascension?
Well,
I
then
mean,
what about the chimpanzee and other clan
buries its own
simians?
animals.
They also, they will grieve. They bury their dead
Right.
so that other animals won't come eat them. That kind of, and I mean, these are four-legged furry little critters that swing from trees. Okay, they're not men. Okay, so what does make us sentient?
That's a good
Because if
question.
self-awareness and awareness of our place in a group makes us sentient, then so is the wolf, so is the monkey, so is the bee, so is the ant. They all have a mission, they all have a purpose, they all have a function. What's different is they seem to have a cleaner understanding than we do. See, the ant knows its place. It automatically does what it's supposed to do. It doesn't have to think about it. It just does it. The dog is a dog, right? My old man that I had for almost 14 years, my old man, my breakdown of him doing an FBI profiling of the dog's personality, right, was that if he couldn't eat it, he didn't want to play with it, wasn't breedable, then you hike a leg and take a piss on it and walk away. He had some real fundamental breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Those seem to be that, his sole principle in life: eat, sleep, breed. Find something fun to play with it. Otherwise, hike a leg and move on. Unimportant. Didn't matter to him. Okay. So I don't know, what is. But once upon a time, each and every one of us had that programming instilled in us. The time of birth, we opened our eyes. It's there. You've got it. And see, that's the thing. Age aside, okay, how tall are you?
6'3".
So you're 6'3"?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your body weight?
186.
Okay. So at my best, I was like 5'11" and a half. And at best, I was 150. I think it was 153. Always been skinny. Now, of the two of us, in survival competition, there would be elements you would be better suited for than I am. But there would be aspects or elements where I would be better suited than you were. Simply because of our body size, shape, and density. Intellectually, there's a whole nother table of game there, okay? But just physically, going back to the caveman, Og and Drog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two guys, very different, but they recognize the advantage of the other, Barney and Fred. Okay, there were things that Fred could do because Fred was so much bigger than Barney, but there were things that Barney could do that Fred couldn't even begin to try because he was too big. Consequently, they learned to work together, mutual harmony, in order to more easily survive. I saw something the other day I was tuned into, and they were talking very briefly about it. And the one individual made the comment that hasn't that been the drive all along? That every achievement man has made, he's made in the name of making life easier on man. And there's a point to that, which also then suggests that at the core of it all, man is lazy. Like the lion, he'd rather lay around in the sun all day and do absolutely nothing and have his female bring him something for dinner.
Or on the other side, you have the thought that man simply of the past is actually educating the man of the future because we're too dumb to learn.
Yeah, the question comes, do we learn or do we adapt?
Actually.
And there's such a fine split there, like genius and insanity. It's such a fine line between learning something and adapting to something. You now do it differently because you adapted to a need. I know people have got lots of learning. They've read lots of books, sat through lots of classroom stuff, right? They've got all kinds of incredible stuff in their head. But they still can't figure out what to dress themselves in first thing in the morning. They don't know how to fit into society. They don't know how to function in the normal standards. They've got to have people taking care of them all the time because they're lost in all this information. Too much. That's when we started this. Yeah, brought it around. Too much information. And historically, how many of the greatest minds went absolutely raging mad before the end of their tale?
Most of them.
Yeah. Brilliant minds, brilliant conceptualists, okay? Innovators of the highest standard. And all of them are crazier than a loon. It just took a long time for people to see the crazy. They were so awed by the genius that they didn't see the crazy. Which is when, and in second grade, when they told me I was a genius, I decided from that point forward I was going to adopt the crazy. And I was just going to be crazy. It was easier.
Mm-hmm.
People don't expect shit from you. You're generally 2 steps ahead of the competition because the competition does underestimate you terribly. And you let them play. Essentially how I got into television. Because a couple of boys who thought they were real slick because they had college educations and they were executives at a TV station thought they were going to take advantage of this bohunk, talk him into a deal that would break his back or put him in servitude to them, either way. And they were going to unload a problem they had on somebody they thought could take control of it. 6-gun fast man from Arizona could take care of this little problem that they were having in Ohio. turns out they're the ones that ended up getting played, and I ended up getting myself my first television show and, my route to fame and fortune. All because they tried to take advantage of a guy who was just trying to make a buck, representing a couple of small businessmen in the community, playing advertising agency because they weren't big enough to afford an advertising agency, right? You had to have so much money, you had to have so much business. It's an expensive endeavor to hire an advertising agency. But the guy's a heating and cooling man. He knows his business. What he doesn't know is how to advertise his business. So I offered to take on his needs. And in the process of doing that, the television station thought they thought they had a rummy, and they tried to play me up, and I ended up taking it away from them.
Maybe the idea is to tell people what the difference between needs, wants, and wants are. Because a lot of people don't know how to define.
What was the last one? I heard warts, which just struck me very funny.
Between
needs, wants, and warts. Yeah.
Yeah. What define what a need is and a want is. Because these people are lost.
You want comfort. You need shelter. Okay, not designed. Okay, the human body, our current condition, and which has been for many thousand generations, our current condition is not well designed to deal with extreme climates. So, we burn from the radiation of the sun in the hot summertime, no matter where you are. You can get a sunburn in Alaska. Okay. Can actually get a hell of a sunburn at the North Pole, believe it or not. Worse than anything you would get in, say, Indiana. Okay. But you can get a sunburn in Indiana too. Certain time of the year. Also, in much of the country, it gets cold. I live in the desert in Arizona. And there are nights, December, January, February, when it definitely goes down to below freezing. If you were outside living on the desert, you would not survive the night. You would freeze to death. Okay? Animals have enough sense to dig a burrow and huddle together to stay warm. Go subterranean, get below the temperature, right? Because down so many inches below the surface, the temperature stays fairly consistent for so many feet. I think it's like 12 feet. So for like 12 feet, after you get down a certain distance, and I think what's the distance? Maybe you know this, D. I can't. I'm thinking it's 36 inches. So as long as you're 36 inches below the surface, and for 12 feet-ish, the temperature stays at like 58 degrees or 56 degrees all the time. So like you can go into Carlsbad Caverns, the caves, right? And the temperature in there stays fairly consistent regardless of what's going on outside. So it can be the dead of winter or the peak of summer, and the temperature is still the same down in those caverns. So we're not designed to survive, so we need shelter of some sort. We need water, and it has to be clear water, clean water, not salt water. Now, it doesn't have to be clear water, but if it's not clear water, then you take the risk of ingesting parasites, bacteria, viruses, all kinds of things that will make you sick and could end your existence. So you need clean water. You need air, so you have to live above the water because you have to breathe, and you can't breathe underwater. And you can only go so high up in the altitudes, and you can't breathe there either. So you have to stay below a certain level. So that's a need to breathe air. Now, beyond the need, there are some drives. One of those drives is to find companions. We don't really like being alone. It's not so much a need as it is a comfort zone. We function better. And because of our limitations physically, can take two or more of us to pick up a tree or a boulder or a something, right? So companionship. Then there is the drive to procreate. So that's kind of a, there. But again, it's not a need. You can go through life never having had any relationship with anyone of the same or different gender, excuse me. Just never, you can just be a monk, not play. Okay. And you can get through life, and some people would tell you that they were very happy that way. A lot less drama, a lot less grief. and there's a part of me, having been, with a woman for 42 years who I love dearly, mind you, and I would cast no aspersions upon. Okay. It was trying. There were times. Okay. When, I had to stop and think about her, or what she would say, or how she would feel, or what she might want to do. I couldn't just go do and be spontaneous. Had to think about it. Okay. So yeah, I can see, we're living that life might appeal to some people, but for most, we are driven to that, that need to procreate, which means we have to interact with another human being. Generally a human being of the other gender, at least today. At this point in time, on the 4th day of June in 2022 at 5:08 p.m., by most scientific standards, you still have to have a male and a female to do the procreation thing. But don't hold me to that. It could change any second. Ask them, they'll tell you. Beyond that, you want somebody to make you feel important. You want something better than grass to eat. Don't need it. Don't need it, but you want it. You want to be warm in the winter. You want to be cool in the summer. You don't want to be judged, so you wear clothing, coverings, so as to disguise part of you, so that that part of you can't be judged affirmatively. I don't know did I say acknowledgement? There's a part here that's weird, that is one of those, I think Freud or Anderson, one of those would have branched off on it. I don't remember. I didn't go to school for psychology, so I really don't. I have the general idea. I can't always say who did what. But acknowledgement actually carries a number of different psychological branches in the so-called family tree. My ego wants me to be taken in the best of light, to put it bluntly, whenever I interact with other human beings. I want the wolf to respect me. I want the bear to fear me. I want other men to recognize me and see me as a worthy adversary. I do this for self-preservation. So my ego feeds my need for acknowledgement. And then my ego, which is in hyperdrive most of the time, wants to take it to the highest level possible. So every time the ego recognizes another level of greater acknowledgement, it automatically wants to go there. So fundamentally, we all want to be king of the world. And we want everybody to, prostrate in front of us. Okay. Our ego also feeds that thing called security. So it gives us that boulder dash aspect of being I'm a tough guy, right? I'm good in a fight. I can scrap with the best. Okay. My ego drives me to test myself and also display myself for the judgment of others. Part of that acknowledgement thing. So this leads to a competitive emotion, another gear on the wheel. Okay. And this gear drives us to prove that we are better than the other guy. But that's not really what it's about. See, we want to prove that we're not lesser than the other guy. Now that's an easy line again. Genius and insanity, right? Better or lesser. See, I have to be better than him in order to prove I'm not lesser than him. But my drive is to not be underachieved. So although Daryl is 6'3" and can reach up to the ceiling and touch with his fingertips, touch an 8-foot ceiling, I can't do that on my tiptoes. Which means if the cookie jar is up on that shelf, Daryl can reach it and I can't. But I'm clever enough to climb up there and get the cookie jar anyway. I'm also clever enough to pull the cabinet down on top of myself, get my ass busted by our parents, have my butt get whipped, and be grounded for the rest of my life. All because I climbed up there to get a cookie because I didn't have Daryl's skills to reach up there. So my ego drives me to prove that he is not better than me.
Is there such thing as better?
Only by perspective. Is 13 better than 12? Then why do we have a baker's dozen?
Then why we care?
Because I want to think I got something more than everybody else. I want to think that I had this and I had that. I also want to create wild imaginary illusions in my mind so that I can explain A, things I cannot otherwise explain, and B, so I can play the, oh, but you got to forgive me and let me off the hook because poor me.
God.
That's another element of that. See, I was abused and mistreated, and therefore you can't hold me accountable. I should be allowed to just do nothing, and you should take care of me because of this. Well, you know what? Tough. Out in the middle of Rocky Mountain National Park, in the dead of November, in a cabin you built with your own two hands, nobody's going to give you no damn credit for what happened to you when you were a kid. Okay? You either make it today on your own merit or you die. Sorry. No excuses. I got none. I tried to play every hook, line, and sinker they ever laid on the table. None of them ever did me a damn bit of good. They went, "Nah, kid, sorry about that. Move on." Okay? You don't get to make excuses. You don't get a buy card because, ooh, you didn't have the best situation. Oh, well, trust me, we all had our traumas. We all had our dramas. We all had our pains and our sufferings coming along the way. But most of us just kept carrying on. Some of us have to make a big deal out of it and try to make that the reason why they should be forgiven to ever be asked to do anything ever again. Sorry, that boat don't float. You're you. Pull up your pants, act like a big boy or a big girl, and go out there and take charge of your life and quit using excuses to get around not having to commit yourself to something like your own damn survival. The world don't owe you a living. The world don't owe you an upkeep, and the world don't owe you survival. You own that. You and you alone. Now, I've known people who've ricocheted through life I go through a whole scenario in my book. The scenario of the analogy of the pinball game, and how much the pinball machine and real life seem to correlate. If you think about it, you launch the free ball up through the track. It runs around up there and it bounces off things, and there's electrical impulses, so that propels it, and bing, 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 right? And then if it falls out of that pattern, it comes down a certain level, you've got paddles, you can knock it back up, get it back up into the field of play. Objects keep in play, keep tallying the numbers. When you're a kid, they launch you into kindergarten and say, try to stay with the bumpers, kid. Avoid the paddle. But the paddle will send you back into the game with a new direction, won't it?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting analogy. Well, it's an old one. Youngsters wouldn't understand it, but people from a certain generational point do grasp the reality there. But, at some point, you have the ability to rise up and not be the ball, and not be the bumpers, and not be the paddle. You can be the guy that launches the game. You can be the player. And the only thing you have to do to get there is to recognize that you're qualified. You were qualified from day one when you opened your eyes. That first time your brain interacted with the world around you, visually, you smelled it, you tasted it, you heard it. You were qualified to be a player in the game. But they've been telling you all your life that you were one of the components. And not to try to exceed beyond that. Be happy, be content. Hey, you won't own anything. You'll have everything and you'll be happy, I promise. You'll have everything you need. Ooh. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the mouth. This is really getting old. Anybody who's listening to this right now, I would challenge you, just for fun, and I believe it's on YouTube. I'm absolutely sure you can either find it on Netflix or probably Hulu or one of those kind of levels. It's a movie called Soylent Green.
That was a good movie.
More than a guy, it was disturbing in its day.
Yeah.
Okay. When I saw it the first time, okay, which it had probably been out about a month, maybe, people were talking about it already. So we went and saw it. We paid the money to get in the theater and everything. Saw the movie. It was disturbing as hell. Okay. Because you could see where Purina dog food could very easily just roll right on over here. Okay. And at the time, there was a lot of eco stuff going on. So there was this social thing happening. This new thought idea was about, the fact that we were supposed to be stewards on this planet, and that we had been very bad stewards. That we were misusing the woods, the forests, the rivers, the streams. We had pillaged the animals. We'd all but wiped out the buffalo, all these things, right? And so this was all coming up, right? This is blooming now, becoming a big deal. And so, Soylent Green comes out and you go, yeah, I can see where in time, in order to feed the existing society, we would have to gain protein from wherever we could get protein. And is man not a major source of proteins?
Then you got to think about the population's growing.
Right.
Where are we going to get protein? Hold on.
Where are we going to, yeah.
There's that old guy.
and then see, you get Logan's Run.
Yep.
Okay, which was, so the concept there was that when you turned, I think it was 35 years old, you turned yourself in and you were euthanized.
Well, you're put into the
in order to
game.
control population.
You were put into the game.
No. That was Thunderball or whatever it was.
Thunderball, you're right.
Yeah, no. Logan's Run was you mandatorily reached a certain age and you went to you went to this building and you stood in line and you walked into basically into a phone booth and a light came on and you didn't exist anymore.
Vaporized.
Yeah. And it had become time. And Logan met this girl on the way to the chamber and went, no, and they split. And that was Logan's Run. And it was all about euthanasia. It was about, mandatory managed euthanasia in order to control the Earth's population. Because remember, we are supposed to be, 580 million people? Is that the number that's on the Georgia Stone?
You know something? People make up new numbers every year.
Yeah, but that number's carved in that stone, okay? And it is there is a verse in the Bible or someplace that references that we would become a species of this in order to best maintain the planet, okay? And that if our population is above that 580 million people or whatever it is, okay, then we are going to have problems. Guess what? We've got 4.5 billion. So that's 8 or 9. What is it? 10 times what we're supposed to have. Okay, for the natural balance and see and science. But then again, do you trust science? I used to quote science a lot. This science says this, science says that. But then I ran into a couple of obstacles, and in running into those obstacles, I was left with the question of, then, did they know what the hell they were talking about, or did they just make that up and then tell everybody else that's how it's done, and so we would just go? Have you ever seen a molecule with your own eye?
Well,
that's a simple question. Have you ever seen a molecule, a single molecule, under microscope?
Okay, under a microscope.
Okay, with your eye.
Under a microscope, yes.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. And have you ever seen human DNA?
The thing is open. What? I mean, I'm live on air. I mean, for real.
I don't like to hear you say.
Back to, all right.
I don't like to hear you say for real.
We will take a brief. I forgot the line. That's terrible.
Now, I mean, the whole idea of people having their mindset. Let's go back to this point. My mother just said, I don't like to hear the word for real. Is it in the dictionary, yes or no?
Say what?
Is
the word for real?
In the dictionary.
It would be for-real, F-O-R-E.
Is it in the dictionary?
For real, meaning to be for reality.
Can it be discovered? Can it be read?
The word for real?
Is it written in books? Is life for real? You know something?
I don't know. You lost me. I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm trying to find out, is the ideology or the words real? Like shit, fuck, asshole, bitch.
No, they're assumed.
Right.
Right?
Which are called colloquial language and terms, right?
The F word Okay,
Fornication on
which
the
is
contract for the king.
which is a derivative of a German word, which was by definition meant fornication.
Under contract for the king.
Okay. Now, it became shortened and it became a slang word, meaning some sailors down at the docks.
Right.
One guy said it one way, another guy from another world in another language heard him say it, repeated it, but changed it slightly, and it became F-U-C-K, which still means fornicate.
Fornication.
So go fornicate yourself. Well, that's kind of hard to do. Okay. So not only is it hard to get that out between punches in the mouth, but it's, kind of hard to actually do. Okay. You fornicate with yourself. Now there's some porn where they suggest that that's capable, but
It's called
I,
masturbation.
for one,
What's the
cannot
deal?
myself do that.
It's called masturbation.
However,
What's the deal?
not that not that thought, but I can do that. Okay. So
what are these beliefs and these ideologies?
So we make these words up because...
Yeah, we make these words up, but where does all these ideologies come from? Because all that bullshit that people have been trying to speak and they feel is bullshit, right? It's a feeling.
Okay, it breaks down fairly simplistically.
It breaks down to a feeling.
Okay?
That someone taught you to believe.
One guy wanted to move a bunch of trees, fallen trees, and big rocks. He wanted A, to have a clear field, and B, he had figured out that he could use the rocks and the logs to build a shelter against what he knew was a coming winter he didn't want to suffer through. But the logs were too big and the rocks were too heavy, and he couldn't do it alone. So he had to go out and get some other cavemen to help him so that he could build the first habitat not in a cave. And consequently, in the process of doing this, he had to create a system of order. Each person had a function, each person had a role.
So he became the leader. He decided to make the rules, right? Well,
they followed him because they had no idea what he was doing. He just promised that he would give them fresh fish.
Sounds like something
if they helped him move these rocks.
Sounds like something taught in history, right?
Right. Now, take that basic situation and expand on it. Okay, so now you get culture, religion, society, rules of order, and governance. Okay, they're all manufactured by one group of people who have decided that they should be above the rest of us and that we should all serve them.
Now that goes back to needs, wants, who's on top, who believes they're smarter than the other, who believes they are...
But how else do I keep Daryl, who's 6'3", from killing Bob, who's 5'11"?
Now, do you understand? That is the way.
I have to have social rule. I have to say, well, Daryl, if you're pissed at Bob, you can't just run over to his house with a club and beat him to death.
Say it again.
There are rules. So we had to have rules, and rules became religions. Without rules, there would be no religion.
Did rules become religions, Bob? Because yes, they did, Mother.
Yes, absolutely. There were rules first, and they became religion. We taught the children those rules and gave lessons on why they should obey those rules, and they gave it to their children, and in each generation they embellished upon it, and that became religion. That's why religions were tied to cultural groups. The people we call the Hebrew followed a certain religious consciousness that had been handed down over generations and generations based on simple social order rules. These are the things we do. We don't take the other guy's stuff without his permission. Okay, if this guy and that girl are doing a thing, then it's wrong for you to go over there and try to get a little too. Okay,
You
it's called
can't hit-
adultery,
You can't knock her in the head
etc.
and get
Okay,
some.
thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
But you do it
Okay,
Every day.
right? Well, of course we do. That's why we attack religion, is because religion substantiates the rules, and since we tend to break the rules
then we got
because they're not fundamental. Here's the problem. The rules are not fundamental. Fundamentally, that is one trap. It has one furry critter trapped in it.
That's right.
I have a family and my family's hungry. You have a family and your family's hungry, and we're both headed for that same trap. We're going to get there. One of us is going to take home that furry rodent to feed his family, and the other one ain't never going to go home again.
That's right. Gotta eat them.
There it is. See, them's the fundamental rules. I will survive, and if you get in my way, I will either kill you or die. And you're facing exactly the same fundamental rule. So we tried to make it softer. We created better rules. We said, no, no, no. You guys need to share the furry bunny. You take half and you take half, and let's be friends. And we went, all right, God damn it. Only because there's three of you and only one of me, and now I ain't feeling so courageous. Okay. You know, I left my Rambo equipment at home. So I'm kind of like going, all right, so I'm outnumbered. I guess I'll go along with this. All right. Now, from that, we got religion. Now we attack religion because religion substantiates the rules, and we by nature are prone to break those rules because those rules are rules of gentility. Right. Those rules are rules of society to make for a pleasant environment.
Hold on. Okay. To make for a pleasant environment.
If you have an apple tree, and you spend all day picking the apples off that apple tree and putting them in baskets. And I come running along and grab one of those apples and run like hell laughing. Okay. I took something that wasn't mine, didn't I?
That was theft. And what was it? You got several things you got going on there. You got theft. You got stealing from the earth itself. You got creation as well, because you got the apple tree.
Well, you were told not to eat the tree from the apple. Yeah. That's a whole nother fairy tale we don't even need to get into. But the point is, see, the fundamental rules is that that's mine and you took it. Okay. The social rule is, well, you say that was yours. Can you prove it? You say that he took it. Do you have evidence? Where is it now? Okay, and then what is the appropriate adjustment, which we call punishment, adjustment that is to be made accountable here by the perpetrator alleged and the alligator alleged. Yeah, that's alleged. Not the right word. Right. I can't think of the right word. But the guy who's making the charge. Okay, who says he stole my apple. Right. Okay. All right. So, these are social rules. This is what we have built upon in order to stop Daryl and I from killing each other over a frickin' rabbit. And see, the argument, the concept goes that, well, he's 6'3" and he could, he'll crush you. Well, that's not necessarily true. And if you don't believe that,
ask Napoleon.
Ask yourself why Doberman pinchers, mean, nasty. I mean, I'm talking junkyard dog here, right? You don't want to mess with these guys, okay? Are terrified of Chihuahuas.
I can tell you why.
Absolutely terrified of Chihuahuas. Snippers. Of course, you know why, okay? So you never speculate that just because a large man and a small man, okay, because Smith & Wesson made us equal, baby.
Hold on. Let's put it this way. Little Rey Mysterio did win the WWE title.
Did he live to celebrate?
Yeah, he did. He beat the Big Show, man.
Oh, okay, I have no idea who that is.
Oh,
So
it's wrestling. I had to give him a little wrestling kick in there, you know.
yeah, see, that's politics. I actually created on one of my whims. I was on a real tangent at the time. I was my hands in all kinds of things. So I ran into some guys out of Akron, and they longed to be part of what then was the World Wrestling Alliance.
Right.
Okay.
WWA.
WWA. And or the World Wrestling Federation, WWF.
Ah.
It was
You
WWF.
mean the World Wildlife
And
Federation?
they were now on cable TV. They now had their own thing going, right? And, you know, we had already, you know, we had come, you know, this is the Hulk Hogan era, right? In pro wrestling. And these guys came to me and they said, you're a promoter, you know, you understand the game. Why don't you promote these Friday night fights? And I said, no, you know, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. It's got a very shady reputation. I don't need the heat. I have a lot of police agencies that I do business with.
And most of the people that
Yeah, you know, that just kind of shady, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you know, and it's not the mob. See, everybody thinks that's the, you know, the New York mob, right? And it's not.
No.
It's a whole different group of sleazy characters that run that game. And you know, they really are prostituting, you know, small-minded men to stand in a ring and beat the hell out of each other for claim of fame.
Hey, you remember they used to have the cage matches where you used to go into the cage, yeah.
Yeah.
Street
well,
fight.
so anyhow, so in the process of all this, I met this guy and he said, well, you know, we've got a group and we do wrestling. And it's all orchestrated, see? So, you know, it's not really, this isn't like prize fighting, man. These guys aren't going to get in here and try to hurt each other.
It's not like cage fighting.
It's all staged. It's all choreographed. You know, we spend hours training with each other in the gym. We all have personas. Come help us create our own WWF because WWF won't pay any attention to us. Now, you have to understand that Akron had a very, very old reputation going back to the earliest days in television. Okay. They were doing out of the Akron Armory guys like Gorgeous George, Jack the Giant. I can't even remember all of them. They're, you know, but they were the thing, man. And it was, they were doing these at the Armory, at the Akron Armory, was set up a prize fighting ring kind of thing. And they were set up for these wrestling matches. And they were actually, were sending these across, I think on CBS or something, right? On Saturday afternoons. And it was like the precedent to what would become the wide world of sports. Okay. And everybody in those days, everybody thought these guys were real. I mean, the viewing audience thought that these guys were really fighting in the ring, and that they, you know, that they were really doing, you know, serious in physical injustice.
Hold on.
The character started to develop. Now,
and
this all went away.
We don't need children to be listening to this part of the show because we want you to keep your fantasy and imagination.
Yeah. So at this point, that all went away. Okay. There was some Gorgeous George was in Phoenix. We had a whole thing going out of Phoenix. So Phoenix and Akron and I think Chicago maybe, and someplace down in the Carolinas, I think.
Charlotte.
Was it? Were they big wrestling, right?
Yeah, Charlotte.
And so anyhow, so they would feed from these various cities, right? And this is very early TV now. This is, you know, it's still all, you know, rabbit ear antenna kind of time. And so anyhow, there was some kind of great big scandal and things all came out. People found out that it really was orchestrated. Okay, that these guys went in there knowing who was going to win before the fight was over, right? This was already planned.
A big production.
So that all fell apart. Coincidentally, about the same time that Bruce Lee and that bunch caught the American public's attention. Oh.
What's up?
Okay. Oh, yeah. So suddenly the Saturday afternoon matinees, okay, and we're talking like 1966, 67, that era, right? Maybe a little earlier. Okay. You're getting all these Asian martial arts movies playing at the theaters with English subtitles.
Hold on. The man's running his mouth, and you hear the English words, I cooked dinner.
You say, very good, your uncle, huh? Hey, all I can see you, yes, now be you, me, I, okay. Oh, yeah.
You get the original Drunken Master.
Yeah. But at any rate, so martial arts became the new thing, right? We're all going to be kung fu fighters. Okay. So now that takes a span. It lasts for almost a decade till the mid 70s. And somewhere in the process of that, now we've gone through Muhammad Ali, boxing and all that has become the sport of kings, right?
Right.
And so that's the big deal. Mike Tyson. Well, Mike Tyson comes along. He makes it cheap. He don't play nice.
He didn't play the game too well.
He fights like he's a junkyard dog, right? He wins, but he fights like a junkyard dog. No holds barred. Anything goes. Okay, so from that, we would get cage fighting. Okay, that would be, right? Everybody fights like Mike Tyson now.
Right.
Okay, so, but at this point now, right about that time, the wrestling thing was coming back in the WWF. And so I created the Interstate Wrestling Alliance and registered it, did all the crap, had 6 good guys and 6 bad guys under contract.
Just 6?
Just 6. 6 good guys and 6 bad guys. I only had to do 1 match a week.
Okay.
Right? So, 6 bouts. Right? Or we do, 4 bouts in a tag team. Right? So they had it all orchestrated. These guys did it. All I did was, I was just the promoter guy. Okay? I had absolutely nothing to do with what went on the ring. I was there to, in the beginning, I was there to do the color.
Right.
Black Spider. Now we've heard all about him. He's going to, let me tell you a story about it. And he, now facing him is Iron John. And Iron John, been working in Ed Mills out there in Medina. He's powerhouse. He's got it. He's got the fuel in the bones, boys. They're going to meet each other right now in the ring. And they don't like each other, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these commercial break.
You play,
and that was just so I didn't have to pay somebody else.
Mikey. Oh, that's a good commercial. I get paid. Good.
Yeah, because I had to pay somebody else to sit there and do that. Eventually we did. But the problem with those guys was if you were down that far in the food chain, so to speak, it's generally because you had a criminal record longer than my leg. And probably owed a lot of money to people like ex-wives, okay, child support to the state, that kind of thing, okay. These guys were not Wall Streeters, okay. The idea that, Tony, what's his name, right, in Iron Man, that he's going to go down here and become Iron Man, right? Like, no, that's not how it works out. Okay. The guy that ends up doing that is the guy that's got nowhere else to go. I thought Rocky did a very good job of selling that, whether people got it or not, because here was a guy who, his options were so freaking limited in life. He could do this or he could do that.
What options? He could work.
He hated one. He hated one and didn't like the other, right? He didn't like thumping for the man, collecting. Okay. But it paid the bills.
Right.
Right. So, he didn't, so he went into boxing because that was a better option. Either I get my brains beat out and I'm dead, right? Or I win and make a lot of money and I don't ever have to do this crap again. My life improves because of it. Okay. Fundamentally now, musicians have exactly the same thing going on.
Yes, they do.
Only it's like the other side of the coin, right? So, the one that makes the athlete that's driven to become the star athlete, whether it's a fighter, wrestler, skier, it doesn't matter, high jumper, okay, they have this drive. On the other side of that are the musicians who are driven to make music and force you to listen to it, even if it's no damn good.
Oh, i.e. the Beatles?
I want to hold your hand.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
I mean, now they did have creative things later on in the age, and I lived in a time of incredible music. I'm sorry, but the crap that's out there now is crap. Okay? Go back and listen to your grandfathers. They knew what the frick they were doing. They all went to school. Most of them actually graduated from some music school or another. Could have been teachers. Instead, they started bands and wrote music, and all your bigger, best, and the best were all educated in music. They weren't just some kids who picked up a guitar in a garage and said, "Oh wow, man, I'm a prodigy."
About David Bowie?
Right?
Are you talking about David Bowie?
Bowie went to the some school in Liverpool.
Yes, he did.
Same one that Paul McCartney went to.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lennon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was educated in music. He wasn't a garage bander. He wasn't an overnight phenom.
They climbed that.
Yeah. Well, they needed a real ZZ Top.
Right.
I always thought that was kind of weird. And if you think about it, if you go back and look at it chronologically now, from the time that first came out, Benny and the Jets and that thing, right? And then the creation of ZZ Top and how that all transpired, almost as though they really were trying to to create it. And then, okay, it wasn't Bowie, it was Sting, right? That was in Dune. Played the fat guy's son in Dune. The fat guy that floated.
Sting.
Yeah, it was Sting. Okay, yeah.
Sting.
That's why I said Sting. There were times when I would get those two very confused. But at the time, they looked very much alike.
Oh, don't forget Billy Idol. You also had Billy Idol.
Yeah, I wasn't, there were pieces, but I wasn't a fan. I really wasn't a fan of that era of music at all. They were, everything was so synthetic, and that was the whole thing. It was, they had all these new toys and they could do all these new incredible things. And I watched, as I produced Dance Vision for 3 years. And throughout that time frame, I had all the top music videos. I mean, all the labels I had connections, having been a promoter, and so I knew people in the music world and at the labels, the publishing houses, the talents themselves, so getting them to send me the videos so that I could do my Dance Vision music show every week. I watched this, the evolution even of the music video of how they, and the music video followed along the line. So it got more outrageous and more mind fracking, okay, as time went on, and too much information. You said Duran, right? Oh yeah, well, I mean, put that in a category. Okay, put anything Duran did in a category. Okay, they were trying to fracture your brain.
They literally did.
Yeah.
Notorious, Hungry Like a Wolf.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay. And their music videos were just showing you what Madison Avenue had been doing to you for the last 10 years.
It was a revelation of the marketing and advertising tools of our generations. It showed you how the past generations was manipulated to believe.
Yeah. So, and they're the ones that instructed you. So guess what? Everything they said was demented. Therefore, your reality is a cognitive dementia.
Oh, God, did you say cognitive dementia?
You've been told how to perceive everything around you, and that's what you do.
And that's what you believe.
And when you're in doubt, you turn back to the same source and say, but I do. And they say, now calm down. And they put you right back on the same track. My whole argument is think for yourself.
But people don't know how to.
Just think for yourself.
No,
you are quite capable of figuring out the problem.
They follow the rules. They believe that if you say fuck you, they believe it's an insult.
Well, I want to hold your hand.
Which hand?
You know, okay, which hand? Yeah. And you know, that's a, you know, would that physical character behavior be considered fornicating with yourself?
We're gonna let that one.
Which hand?
Which hand?
How many fingers? Okay. Does it matter? All right. You see?
But people don't even catch these things because people don't know how to think for themselves.
No, because they've been taught to follow the leader, not be the leader. Do you know that in the military, where do you go if you want to become an admiral or a general in the military of the United States? Where do you have to go?
Officers training school. We gonna
no, that gets you barged. That don't make you a general. That don't make you an admiral.
Oh, well,
in order to take that step, where do you have to go?
Honestly, you start out as a grunt.
General War College. And there you learn how to be a general.
What does a general
there
do?
You learn how to think and pass down orders, not stand at the bottom and wait for the orders to fall on you.
It's a perspective.
Yeah, but see, they've already gone through OCS, right? They've already done Officers Candidate School. They've already been indoctrinated in troop management, resource development, etc., right?
It's called
okay, they've got
marketing.
This down, but they have yet to learn how to think for themselves. That's why they go to War College. In War College, they learn how to think for themselves rather than follow the standards that are delivered down to them. And the rest of us live in that trickle-down economic.
Trickle down.
Believe it or not. See, Reagan wasn't wrong. He thought that he could make that work with monetary scenarios. Doesn't. But it does work in human management. In the corporate management, what do we call it? Human resource. Okay, that logic works very well. It trickles down to the guy at the bottom. He's told what to do and when to do it.
And we got Reverend Ed in the house. Reverend Ed is in the house.
There's a friggin' echo in here.
Oh, Reverend Ed is in the house.
I'll be nice. I'll surrender.
You'll surrender? You gonna sing this song? I just wanna hold your hand.
Man. Hello, all.
D. Not that you have one, but don't quit your day job.
Okay, I won't.
Okay.
Not this time. Next year I will, but not now.
Sound like Barry White.
Yeah.
We just can't get enough, baby. We just cannot get enough.
Well, Cowboy Bob,
if he sounded enough like Barry White, we wouldn't be talking to him.
Bob, just that time for you to, shut it down, buddy. Shut it down.
I just can't get enough now.
Ooh, baby.
He was almost 15 minutes late getting to me.
Oh my!
And now he's 4 minutes early getting rid of me. Makes me think that I'm not valued very much, just a filler. I'm a bad talking commercial. Hey, whatever the premise, thanks for tuning in. It's always a joy to have this opportunity to speak with the people out there in the greater expanse of the universe called the internet. It's been my pleasure to be here, as I normally say at the beginning, but forgot to. I don't own it. It ain't mine. I don't get paid for it. I give my opinions freely. They're mine, and that yours should be yours. Don't just be a talking head for somebody else's opinions. Form your own. Be yourself. Know that you are sufficient. If there's a God in heaven, he created you to exist without any outside assistance.
Come on.
Recognize that. Take control of you and be who you are. Be true to yourself. And other than that, tune back in again next week when we go to Dr. Neely's Boys from Montauk Funhouse. And we'll see you all later.